future lies with Soldado, Kane, Lamela, and Eriksson, and Vertonghen there, and Ryan Mason, an absolute stalwart in the midfield. So now we just have to figure out. I said last week. I could care less to ever see Adebayor ever in a Spurs shirt again. And I honestly feel the same way about Dembele. I'll just say this about that goal. Actually, they should have been 2-0 up, and they should have gone 2-0 when Black was just by Dembele was just absolutely left to waltz into a spot in between the penalty spot and the top of the 18. And if it wasn't for an absolutely astounding, another great save by Lloris, that game would have been 2-0, and we would have really, really been in bad shape. So that's my whole point about just not feeling so great about it, because, again, they beat us quite convincingly in the first half. So.
Sure, and they did. But again, I'm seeing little things. We talked off the cuff, like you were saying. I'm not expecting great, massive changes, and if anybody is, they are absolutely fooling themselves.
Yeah.
You have to try to find the little things in every single game. From here on out. I looked at this not just because we pulled out a victory and got 3 points, but the Villa match, this match, for as bad as an overall that it looks. There are little tiny silver linings in there.
Yeah,
you can start seeing some things that are starting to manifest itself into the team, and it's nothing catastrophic. It's nothing that's going to make people jump out of their seats and say, "Oh, wow!" Unless you're a real analytical X's and O's type of person, which I am. So I'm seeing crosses that are getting into the box. Yeah, we looked woeful in the first half.
Not in the first half. There wasn't one, I don't think.
There was. I think there was one.
Yeah, I think it was.
And that's all it was. And it didn't connect.
Let me ask you a quick question, because I wanted to ask you about an observation, and I wanted to get your opinion. So, did it seem to you that Soldado played the hitman role and Kane was supporting him? And if that was the case, shouldn't it be the other way around? Isn't Soldado really the creative one that can kind of... Like, I saw Kane a lot come back. Like, we always complain about Adebayor coming all the way back and sort of disrupting the flow. And I felt like Kane was having to do that a little bit. And I thought, well, shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't Kane be the hitman? Like if you're going to send a cross through, you really don't want Soldado heading it.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I'll play devil's advocate on that. I tend to see Kane as someone who plays better off the striker. Someone who plays, he tends to get a little bit more advantageous and creative with his shooting, because he is a better distance shooter than any of the three.
Good point.
And I just feel, let's face it, Soldado is what Soldado is, and the bottom line is the guy's a poacher. If he's hitting goal or not hitting goal, and for the year and a half he hasn't hit goal for us all that much. We understand that, but his role is a poacher. He does his damage inside 10 yards.
Yeah, I agree.
And if Kane is going to do anything outside of the box, it's going to be coming. If it's a 4-4-1-1 type of situation where he's playing behind the striker a little bit, I just tend to think that that's where he's most creative. And it plays into his game better, because he does have a blistering shot from 18, 20, 24 yards.
That's true. Well, I will say this. I thought Soldado played well today. I just wish that he would have bagged the goal that he should have scored. Other than that, because we've been hailing him as having a great performance, and I thought he was about 7.5, 8 out of 10 up to that point, but he's paid to and needs to score goals and didn't today. So I don't know. I think I want to sum it up. Can't blame the manager. Did some good things. Eliminated possibilities of making mistakes by having a good lineup. We saw some good play in the second half, but still lots to tell. So.
And he's still searching. I still think he's still searching for his best 11.
Yeah. Dembele should not be.
Lennon complicates it now, because I thought he played really well. I thought he played really well. Now it's against 10 men. I get it. I want to see him playing against stiffer competition. I guarantee you he's going to get a solid run out on Thanksgiving Day against Partizan. He'll probably start. But I would love to be able to see him play against Everton. If Chadley is still nicked and he's going to take the break.
Was that so Chadley was hurt?
Yeah, I think he's got a nick, because he wasn't even on the bench today.
Oh, he wasn't? Okay.
Yeah, we had Ceballos was on the bench, Ball was on the bench, Vorm was on the bench, along with Stambouli, Paulinho, Lennon, and Kirikic. So, yeah, it was the bench was a little interesting, to say the least. And I honestly was hoping that Stambouli was going to get a run out. I really think he's closing in on this lineup. I think up front he's just about got it solved. If Chadley's healthy, he's playing. So that takes either Koule or Mason off. And I thought Mason, of all the games he's played, today was probably, although he had some really good moments, there were he made some lousy passes today.
Yeah, he did. There were a number of soft passes today between him and Lamela.
Yeah.
And he had a number for sure.
Yeah, so I think he's closing in on it, and even be able to rotate that midfield a little bit. I'm kind of amped, man. I mean, look, ultimately what we're trying to do is not relive the entire, past of what just happened in that game. We're here for entertainment value. We're here for new listeners, potential new fans of this club, to let them know, hey, look, there's guys out here that care. All the way 3,000 miles away from the stadium, there are people who give a damn and give a big damn about this club. And I feel that whether it's comical at times, whether it's serious at times, whether it's a little downtrodden at times, which we really try not to do, there's enough whining and bitching going on social media and other podcasts.
Oh God, yeah. Especially with an international break.
Yeah, especially with the break. That's why I always choose not to do one, during the international break, because it's just a bitch fest.
But this one, we had so much. I can't remember an international break where it just seemed like every day there was something new to talk about, some development, something that the club either did or didn't do, or something that somebody said or didn't say, and and then Twitter obviously amplifies it. But there is, look, the one thing that I'll say, last thing I've really got to say about the match is that I just don't want to feel like we're taking a step back, and I didn't feel like we took a step back today. So I'm pleased, and I am cautious, bordering on cautiously up. No, I'm cautious. I'm not optimistic yet, but I'm interested to see how the right lineup could play at home against a team that has their issues as well. So, but boy, we've got so many things to talk about outside this match. Oh my God! Yeah,
I mean, let's get started with that too.
Come on, where do we go? I
mean,
what do you want to start with?
I'll tell you what. Let's start with the one thing that everybody's kind of talking about, and that's the potential. And it looks like sure signing of Paul Mitchell, coming over from Southampton as a talent coordinator / scout /
Well, is it not done? I thought it was signed, sealed, and delivered. No, is that not the case? I read a couple of articles, and no, I'm not speaking from it.
I haven't seen that. Until it gets announced on the club's website.
Okay.
I never.
Oh, so it hasn't been officially announced. Okay, all right. Well, there's no article in the Telegraph about him, and I know you love this stuff, because you're a big Paul. What's his name? The other good.
Ian Broomfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Ian Broomfield. I think
Ian Broomfield, sorry.
The scouting side of things, the youth side of things, I'm kind of into all that. Mm-hmm. When I go over in May, I'm planning on, if they're still active, I'm going to go to some youth games and see what I can and can't watch, what they'll let me do. So it's kind of a big deal for me. I think this is going to be huge. And the thing to remember about Paul Mitchell is, he's a former player, MK Dons and Wigan, and he not only controls the staff that scouts and gets the youth players in and has built what is arguably the best youth system in European football, but he also handles a big majority of their senior transfers, the things that happen in the off-season. So you look at Southampton, sitting comfortably second in the table right now, Tadic, Mane, Alderweireld, all these players that he helped bring in after suffering what everybody on the planet thought were catastrophic losses. Southampton was relegation fodder, and that was what everybody was saying, without a doubt. And now look at these guys. He has and Tadic and Mane. These guys are scoring every week, assisting every week, making some kind of wonderful defensive play every single week. Yeah. Schneiderlin is playing out of his ass. Now, I don't know if he's playing out of his ass because he wants out of there. He is still...
Yeah, he's still talking about, they're sitting second place, and I heard him say he's eyeing a move to a big club, and I'm how is he talking about us?
Yeah, and maybe he is, especially now with Mitchell going. And the interesting thing about it, and why I'm so excited about this, is that, Mitchell's been doing all this work for Southampton. Well, guess what? He's taken that 3-ring binder with him to White Hart Lane. So all these players that Pochettino is probably already very familiar with, and he will be able to talk to Pochettino in a language that they both understand. It'll happen from the first minute they sit down to start discussing these things. Sure. And now you have arguably the best talent scout in Ian Broomfield in the room with you.
Yeah.
Guys, the future's bright and the future's lily white. I'm sorry. This is a recipe for absolute success.
No, I figured you'd be well chuffed about this. I guess I just, my jaded nature of seeing Levy, sort of execute sexy idea du jour. I just get a little nervous. It's always, who's the flashy, talked about manager, I think of Comoli, and I don't know, maybe would be a flashy manager, but Juan de Ramos was in there, and I don't know. I'm just a believe. Like, again, there's a lot of things and I've been vocal about a lot of frustrating things that Poch has done, but I believe in time. I believe in stability, and so I just wonder, were Baldini's selections terrible, or in other words, do you need to think about the fact that you had ABB and Sherwood in there for a time, and now you've got a guy with a completely different system?
Yeah.
How bad are those? There's certain players that are really poor. I don't know. I guess it can be viewed as a good thing. But in my mind, it only really works if you give it all time.
Yeah. And here's what I see. What I see is, here's ABB. He goes to the board and says, all right, you guys are going to give me X amount of dollars. That's cool. I want to try to buy Hulk. I want to try to buy John Matinho. I want to try to buy player X, Y, and Z along with them. Sure. But no, you're not going to have that. You're going to have Chadley. You're going to have Kirikesh, this guy named Eriksson from Denmark, and we're going to go ahead and throw in LaMelo at the last minute along with Soldado, blah, 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 blah. Okay, those really weren't the players I asked for, and I don't know how I'm going to make this work, so we're going to kick the ball sideways until it makes everybody's eyes fall out of their head out of complete boredom and numbing football.
Yeah.
So if Pochettino is saying to Levy now, and I think Levy is making these moves as his last best opportunity to make this club successful under his reign, because if this fails, I have said this 1,000 times if I haven't said it 1,001. If this fails, he's gone. There is no way that they are going to let him stick around and say, okay, we're going to go with the 9th manager now in 5 years, or whatever the hell the number is.
Oh, no, I beg to differ. You talking about Levy saying?
Yeah, and I'm talking about if you have Broomfield, Pochettino, Paul Mitchell, and they go to the board says, okay, you have, in this January window, let's just say, for instance, we'll give you $20 million plus 60% of any transfers you make outgoing. So they take that money, and within the budget constraints, say we want player X, player Y, and player Z, and let's just say, for argument's sake, they want Schneiderlin, Laporte, and Dubaya from Palermo. There's no way Levy says, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but we're going to give you what Mr. Baldini is saying. We're going to give you player L, M, and N instead of X, Y, and Z. That is not going to happen. I think if they can stay within the budget constraints that the board sets for them, they will be able to get whatever the hell player they want. And between the three of them, it's going to be an agreed-on player. It's not going to be a democracy. It's not going to be, well, 2 voted for this guy and 1 voted for that guy, so we're going to go with the 2. These guys know what they're doing, and I think it's going to really behoove Levy, the board, and the club to let these guys do what they do. It's worked everywhere along the line for every single one of these people, from Pochettino's coaching to Broomfield's management and the way that he acquires players. Not to mention everything that Mitchell has done to build Southampton's youth program into what it is, and their senior team.
Well, I hope you're right. One of the things that, and I had a lot of conversations on Twitter with a number of people this week about Levy, who is a guy that I respect, from a number of perspectives. Most of the fact is he's a brilliant guy, and I'm really pretty well versed in sort of how he and Nick and Lewis ultimately bought the club, and it was really kind of crafty and genius how they went about doing it. But the one thing that I've always been incredibly frustrated with him is that he's not a football man, and he's not really learned. And if there is one thing that he should have learned, it is that speaking to what you just discussed, is stability, letting the things that have been successful elsewhere unfold, giving it a stable period, no matter how painful